Hey, Gloucester Township, I'm Joe Allen, and this is the Restored GT podcast. So if you've paid attention over the last few months, you know we've talked about the Board of Education election that's coming up on November 8th. And with that, we gave the opportunity for many of the candidates to come out and sit down and talk with us. 3 of them have reached out so far, and with us today is Miss Dena Hendry. So, tell us about yourself, for anybody that doesn't know you.
My name is Dena Hendry. I am a mom of 3 boys, Aiden, who's in the 5th grade, and Owen and Hunter, who are in the 4th grade. I have an absolutely awesome, supportive husband, Scott. We have been married for 17 years. We have moved to Gloucester Township in 2014 from South Florida. And we just purchased our first house here in Gloucester Township this past December. So it's been pretty fun. We enjoy having lots of fun and making memories with our boys. And, you know, I'm a full-time working mom. Still have time to be a part of our boys' school's FSA, which is like our PTA. And I, just trying to be me.
So you've covered one of the questions already, which was what organizations in the township do you belong to? And I guess you are an active PTA member.
Yeah. So when my oldest started kindergarten, I thought that it was very important to be involved in the school. And I knew from working full time, it would be kind of hard. I knew I wouldn't be able to do like the cool, fun things. But I wanted to be involved in the school somehow. And the reason is different than everybody else's. Usually the reason is because they want to do, let's say, holiday parties and things like that. For me, I had something really personal happen to my oldest son when he was 4. And I wanted to know who was going into my kid's school. And I wanted to know who were the people that were going in and out, because I wanted to make sure that if, God forbid, something were to happen to my son, that I know who I would go to. But then it just grew into being involved more. And like I said, I knew I couldn't do the fun things about going to parties and things like that. So I started making flyers, started doing the fundraising, things like that. And I became the co-secretary of the FSA. And now for the past 3 years, I've been vice president of the Choose FSA. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. And for those that don't know, what is an FSA?
FSA at Choose is Family School Association. So it's just like a PTA.
Okay.
So just another name for it.
So what brought you to run for Board of Education?
Ooh, that's a great question. So I started attending school board meetings in 2020. When I started, it was virtual. At the time, there was only 40 seats, and then it grew. I believe it was like 100 or 1,000 seats, because it was just COVID, and the different policies and things like that. And being that in my profession and my husband's profession, we had experience in developing COVID policies. So reading what the school was laying out and what we had known, I had questions, and I was just like, this doesn't quite jive. So that's how it started from there, and attending those meetings and emailing the board and also the superintendent. But then it was my son Hunter. I knew, and my husband knew, that he needed to have some help. And we needed to make sure that he was going to get evaluated. And so ensuring that when you email somebody from the district, that you do get a timely reply. And the follow-up and things like that. So after attending those meetings and trying to advocate for my son Hunter, but really it's for all the children that are struggling, it just grew that I kept on attending, because I felt like just because I'm done here doesn't mean that I stop showing up. I have the time, so therefore I will still keep going to school board meetings. So, and I haven't stopped.
What do you think would make you or any member an effective member?
For me, I would think that I would be a good candidate to earn a seat on the school board is that I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to have a conversation. And I don't just say, oh, I believe this and this is how it should be. You have to be able to welcome all viewpoints, and you have to be able to welcome everybody's different point of view, because everybody may have a different take on it. So if you can collectively look at all those points of view and come up with one answer or one reply, then I think that's what makes you, a really good school board member.
It's a good point. I think that in the political climate of today, I think we don't do a lot of listening. So I think that's a really strong point to put through, is that, we've seen over the last 2 years on TV and even we had a bit of an issue in the schools here with parents and Board of Ed fighting, and just people with different viewpoints that don't sit and take the time to listen to each other. And so I think that's a really good quality. So I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you brought that up. So what do you think makes you different than anyone either on the school board or anyone else running?
I can say for those who are running, for myself, everything that I've been putting into this goal, because I don't like to say campaign because that kind of sounds very political.
It does.
And school board shouldn't be political. It should not be if in a presidential election do you vote blue or red. It shouldn't be that way. It should only really be about the students, the teachers, and I've said it before, when I say teachers, I mean everybody that makes the school successful and our community. So for me, everything that I'm doing on my own. But at the same time, I'm doing it with the support of our community. And I'm doing it with the support of my husband, but yet my own money. I've had people say, hey, I would love to help you. I would love to donate. Mm-hmm. As much as it would be helpful to pay for these awesome signs that you see behind me, I don't want it, because I'd rather you honestly make memories with your family, because that's so important. The time that we have together is really important. Also, food is expensive. Food is flippin' expensive, and especially I have 3 boys, and they eat all the good snacks within like 24 hours of us going food shopping. But also our teachers need school supplies, right? They need school supplies, and I'd rather that money that you would give to me to buy more awesome signs go to our schools, because our teachers put so much money out of their own pockets to help our kids. So what makes me different is that I am walking the walk. I have attended school board meetings. I have been advocating for change. And if I'm advocating for change and wanting to take a seat back, then I'm being a hypocrite, right? So if I'm advocating for change, then I need to be the change. And hopefully there's another parent out there, or even taxpayer, that says, holy shnikes, if this person can do it on her own and make a difference, I too can make a difference, because there's 9 seats on the board, right? And then imagine if we had 9 individual people with all different backgrounds, being parents and taxpayers, that truly had the interest of our community at heart, we could move mountains, as opposed to just being puppets of our local government and our interest groups that are using us like chessboards.
They do kind of create a wall. So it's it is, I think, for your average person sitting at home that's got a little bit of concern about the town, whether it's the schools, whether it's municipal budgets or anything like that, there is such a wall, I feel, from someone look, I hate politics.
Yeah.
And I hate how it divides people. But so, I always see myself as kind of an outsider, even though I ran. And I found that if I hadn't come across people that would kind of lead the way, it's an impossible thing to do. Like running, I thought it was tough because there's such a wall there between if you want to work on council, you want to go on board of ed. I just feel like and then you see these big glossy flyers that come out, and I want to talk about one of the letters that came in the mail, which fired me up. I'm sure it fired you up. But there is, when you look at what you're up against,
it's intimidating. It is intimidating, and you're saying to yourself, so I will be honest, for the past year, because the first board of elections that I did meet the candidates, I wasn't really well known. It was like, oh, there's this mom, that's cute, she's 10 school board meetings, and she's gonna do a meet the candidates, that's nice. But I actually had our independent candidates say, you know what, I'm going to take that exposure. That's really nice of you. And I did a Zoom, and it was Marianne that was there, that I believe. And that's the only thing, because I'm drawing a blank. And then last year, I had Ellen take part as well, Linda, and I had Tamika Harvey, I had Keith Gibbons. And I did the same thing for the mayors, because my thought process is, well, if nobody's doing this, how are we as voters going to know who the good choice is, and if there is a choice, because the people that are backed by our local government, they have the money and the power to dump for ad campaigns and flyers. And I'm in marketing, so I know that you have to purchase the address list. That's number one. Number two is you have to create the flyer, and also you have to pay for the stamps. It is a lot of money. And guess what? I'm looking to go to Disney World next year. So I'd rather spend my money to see Mickey than try to earn a seat for the school board. Win or lose, whether I'm sitting with a team at the school board or sitting in the audience, I'm still going to be at school board meetings. That is not going to change. So I know if this is not favorable for me, if this is not my chance, I'm still going to go to school board meetings. That's not going to change. But hopefully I'm going to see Mickey Mouse next year, and that's going to be important. I
think it's, when you look at the expense, and it was, I showed this before, but like a flyer like this that went out for the...
I got one of those. That's the first one I got.
Yeah, one of the other teams, the heavily funded team, that flyer, same size.
I call them the trio.
Yeah, the same size that that my team put out last year, that we paid about $13,000 for. So you think
one
about
flyer.
One flyer, one single flyer, $13,000.
I mean, that's more than a week for a vacation at Disney. That's craziness.
Yeah, I could go on several cruises for what that was put out there. So it makes you kind of think when that much money is behind it. And I'm sure this isn't going to be the only one that's out. There was another flyer, and we'll talk about the letter that came out too. That cost a ton of money too. So it's not cheap to send these things out.
But the question is why? The question is why? Why is this trio pumping so much money in something that they know little about?
Well, yeah, why is there... I guess the biggest question is, why is there such a group involvement in let's get our people in, or not just get our people in, but let's protect what we already have? Because there's a lot of people on... I mean, council is they're one organization on there. That is Democratic committee there. Board of Ed is just a we've got a few people on there that we can trust, but the rest are.
I mean, I like to see that currently right now our Board of Education has four people that I can wholeheartedly say are working towards the betterment of our district without any agenda besides our students, our teachers, and our community. The rest of them have been previously placed by the machine.
Yeah.
So my hopes are that with every election, either hopefully it's 3 this time, but if every election there's 1 or 2, we're making strides and making differences, and therefore it's going to be the best for our students, our teachers, and our community. And that's part of the reason why I've said it from the beginning, and I have it on my signs, that it's about our students, our teachers, and our community, nothing else.
So I guess the question then being behind, one of the listener questions was, are you funded by anyone else? And the answer to that is obviously no.
I'm funded by Dena Hendry. I'm funded by actually the people that I work for, Hilton Management. I work every day. I get paid every 2 weeks. So they're the ones that enable me to spend $302 to be exact. That's how much I've spent on my campaign so far. $302.
Nice. Well, we love your
we love your.
I mean,
it's like the little engine that could, right?
It is
they're
in comparison.
It's it is what it is.
It's a third of the size of the other signs that we've seen out there. So
this shows you that it's a pure rookie mistake, that this is my first rodeo, right? So therefore, I am not in the know of how to obtain this goal, because like I said, I hate the word campaign. It's a goal, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't even know that I had to write or have printed certain things. It is what it is. The most important part is I'm here, I'm willing, I'm able, and I want what's best for our community.
Excellent. So, speaking of the community, what challenges do you think that Gloucester Township schools face right now?
As a parent that I am involved in the schools, and I have an awesome husband who is British, right? He's a British American. And we have different viewpoints. We have different viewpoints of our education, right? And we just had mailed these results of our test scores, our standardized test scores. And I went to the BOE meeting where Mr. Tro was going, with the results of the test scores. I also know that I have a son that is in the 4th grade who possibly reads on a 2nd grade level, right? I also have a son that is in the 5th grade that struggles a little bit also with reading. And then I have a son in the 4th grade who is really, really smart, but he thinks school's boring. And his reading test scores were actually worse than the other 2. And my husband said, the schools are shit. And I said, stop. You're making me mad. You're really making me mad, because our teachers are excellent. He doesn't quite get our school system, right? My mother is a retired school teacher from Paterson, New Jersey. She taught there for 35 years. I get what it takes to be a teacher. I understand what it takes to be a teacher. I too wanted to be a teacher, but I also enjoyed college socially. No surprise there, a little bit more than academically. So getting a 3.0 wasn't my focus. My focus was doing sports and also possibly finding out where the next party was that Friday night. It is what it is. So I changed my major where I only needed a 2.0 and I had a 2.4. So I thought I was winning. But anyhow, so he doesn't quite get it. I get it. And I can tell you that our teachers, especially at Shoes, are phenomenal. They work with our kids. They care about our kids. And some kids are not good test takers. I wasn't a good test taker as well. I mean, my SATs were atrocious. I also told my husband that Owen, who is really bright and reads on a 6th grade level, probably took the time to draw Pokemon on his test scores and probably just didn't care. So you can't judge the schools and the teachers based off a standardized test. It's not fair. But unfortunately, with metrics, that is what they're based off. You're based on quantifiable results. And it's not fair because not all kids care. And if I knew I had the ability, I would have opted all 3 of them out and we would have went to Chuck E. Cheese for the day.
Yeah. It's an interesting point because I was not a big fan of school when I was in it. I had no interest in it. And I found that even later on, through different colleges and different technical schools, that there's just some people have a different way of learning.
Yeah.
And they can be brilliant people. They just have alternate ways. So you've got a classroom, with
many
20
different
kids in it.
Yes. And that classroom has, if let's say 20, because that would be a nice normal number. Mm-hmm. Some classes are bigger, mm-hmm. but let's say 20 kids. You have your average kids, right? And it's just like a curve, right? And then you have those children that need a little help. And then you also may have children like my son Hunter that's classified mm-hmm. as special needs. And then you have somebody like Owen who has no interest in school, but you tell him once and he gets it. He gets it and needs no guidance. But at the same time, that teacher has the responsibility to keep all 20 kids engaged and also learning. And how are they going to reach all 20 kids? It's hard. It's really honestly difficult. These teachers do not, and like I said, when I say teachers, I don't just mean the person in front of the class grading grades. I mean the paras, the aides. All 3 of my kids do speech. They do, I mean, granted, it's kind of hard when you have a father that's British and a mom who has a Jersey accent, and no wonder why they're messed up, right? So that's the reason why they need speech. But they have speech. You have the librarians. You have our guidance counselors, which are phenomenal. Our principals. But back to trying to engage all 20 kids, it is really tough, and it's really a job that I know I couldn't do. So therefore, they deserve the world.
Gotcha. All right. So you mentioned you are a busy mom with a lot going on.
Yeah.
There's time constraints. Yeah. With school board. How do you feel about the time constraints? Are you aware of the time constraints and what's involved?
Yeah, I would assume, right? Then again, we all know what happens when you assume, right? But anyway, I would assume that I would get the agenda and there would be like some sort of packet to go over. Mm-hmm. My hopes is that we would have it within plenty of time and hopefully over, let's say, the weekend, that I could review such things. So already, yes, I work full time. I have a commute to Princeton, New Jersey, so I commute over an hour each way. Sometimes I'm traveling to, yesterday I was in Allentown for the day. And also I have my FSA PTA stuff, which is really low key because all I kind of do is the flyers and possibly give ideas. It's not like another full-time job. And my boys play flag football, so that's on Sundays. So other than that, and I feel that I could still do the FSA PTA stuff. I can still be, a great employee to my employer. And as Owen says, I'm an okay mom. So I know that I'm not a good mom, according to him, I'm an okay mom, and I'm okay with that. And still being an okay wife to my husband. But no, my husband is the reason why I'm able to do everything. Or I should say try to do everything, because he is so supportive. He is the one that picks up the boys from school, that he helps them with their homework. He's the one who cooks dinner Monday through Friday. He makes sure that we eat vegetables, because if it's up to me, I'd be like, okay, we'll have potato chips. It's not a big deal. So if my husband wasn't so hands-on and supportive, I knew I would have to give up one thing. And until he's not supportive, I know I can do it all.
Why is this year's election so important? What do you think is I guess we've kind of talked about some of the biggest issues. Is there anything this particular year that makes it more important?
Ooh, yeah. So there's 3 seats. There's 3 seats up for grabs that are wanting to earn your vote. Victoria Smith is not coming back, so that is already an open seat. You know, that's not a seat that is looking for re-election, right? So you have out of the 3 open seats, 2 are up for re-election. Jen O'Donnell, she is one of them, and I believe deserves to earn her seat back. She's absolutely phenomenal. That kind of rhymes, right? O'Donnell, phenomenal. Anyhow, and then you have 2 other seats, and after some consideration, that's when I thought, wait a second, if I run and I earn this seat, that could be the makings of a truly independent school board. And there's the other open seat. And looking at the candidates, seeing that Keith Gibbons also decided to run, I was like, holy shnikes, this could be the turning of the tide. And I'll be honest, I handed in my petition within 15 minutes to spare that day, because I was still going back and forth. I was like, not can I do this? Not do I want to do this? It was, should I do this? Should I put myself out there? Should I, and knowing that if I do this, I could possibly open myself up for large scrutiny, you know? And am I okay with having to share who I am in a sense? Am I okay with having people judge me? Am I okay with having my husband also possibly be under scrutiny? You don't know how this goes. I saw what the mayor campaign was like, with what Sam Sweet and Joe D'Amico went through and what came their way. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, after, some Rita's Italian Ice, I thought about it and I said, wait a second. I have nothing to hide. I'm an open book. Yeah. I'm very transparent. My Facebook page has been public since God knows how long, right? So I know I'm a good person. Granted, I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but nobody likes everything all the time, right? That's what makes us individuals, and that's what makes us different. So I said, if I know that I have nothing to hide, and I know that I am doing this for the right reasons, and I have people who saying, Dena, you should do this. You would be good for our community or for our students and for our teachers. At least I get 5 votes, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's, it was when we started the whole Restored GT thing back in, we started it in early 2020, and we started it just because it was, it was me online just kind of yelling about different things going on, and that led to Sam Sweet reaching out to me, and we got talking, and we said, well, we're going to try to change things here.
Yeah.
And he said, you should run. And I thought, well, I don't know that I can handle, the scrutiny, because I'm just kind of outspoken, I guess, a little too much that maybe could be, I don't know, confrontational. I wondered about that, because it's different. I thought about it a bit, and I thought, I don't care what comes in the mail about me. But it is different when you've got family involved, and how's my wife going to feel about flyers coming in the mail with my picture on them? And it's something that we, when we started interviewing other folks, because we had 4 seats when we did our campaign, and it's when you interview other folks, and it's like, look,
this could happen.
Do you have any skeletons first? If you have any big skeletons in the closet, they're going to come out. And even if you don't, they're going to find something.
Or make something up about you.
Yes. Point is, good transition. So I'm sure you've all gotten, it's a little bit tough to see.
I haven't gotten it, which I'm really upset. I don't know if my husband is really telling the truth, that we didn't receive it. He
just hit it.
And hit it and was just like, Mommy cannot know about this. But I will tell you, to get a message to say, hey, did you see the flyer or the letter that came out about you, and what are your thoughts? I'm like, about what? What flyer? What letter? And as I'm driving home, everything's going through my mind. Like, what did they find out about me? Like, did they find out that I really don't like beer? Did they find out that I possibly was a wild child in college? Like, what can they possibly say about me?
It makes you start thinking about stuff that you've never even done before, and you're like, did I do something that I don't remember? And it's, you
did I not return a grocery cart? Which sometimes I don't, I'll be honest. I'm that type of person.
A Blockbuster movie you probably never returned.
Probably, or a library book.
But this letter paid for by Citizens of Government Reform, which is kind of hilarious, because though that PAC funded the people who currently are expanding our government, making it more expensive. So it's a kind of a hilarious name for a PAC, run by the attorney for the township, run by his wife. So
is that a conflict of interest?
Everything here's a conflict of interest.
I've asked about that.
So everything in Gloucester Township. But the funny thing about this letter is there's 2 individuals on the bottom. Andrea Stubbs, Carolyn Grace. Supposedly they wrote this letter because they were concerned.
I haven't even seen it and touched it yet.
Yeah, I have at it. They were concerned about you and one of the other candidates, Keith Gibbons, because you go to their council meetings and you question.
How dare I go to a council meeting that's open to the public?
You have questioned under them funding underprivileged neighborhoods,
which is a bull-faced lie.
Well, that's the thing. So if you've gone to restoregt.com, yesterday I threw out my 2 cents on that, and my thought was, I've at least been going to council meetings, almost everyone, for the last 3 years.
Okay.
I know everybody that's talked up on there, and in the last 2 years, I've either written about it or I've talked about it here with Keith, and I know the things that you've talked about. I've made fun of you on a couple of things that you've gone up and talked about, but none of them have been about what is stated in here. You asked one question, and I posted a link to it yesterday in my article. You asked a question whether or not the Brittany Woods project was a conflict of interest for Carolyn Grace to vote on, since she does live there. Mm-hmm. It would be like...
I think that's a fair question, though. I mean, and I believe when I went to that meeting, because I couldn't attend the meeting prior due to the fact that there was a GTBOE meeting,
mm-hmm.
And I've been very vocal that residents, parents, taxpayers, we shouldn't have to vote which one's more important. We shouldn't have to look at an agenda beforehand. You should just want to show up, right? And I had gone to the school board meeting because at that time there was a hot topic item that I wanted to know about. So therefore I missed that meeting. But with the great technology that our township has, I was able to view it at my leisure. And I had a question about the conflict of interest. Being that there was 4 votes, I would have thought Councilwoman Grace would have abstained.
Yeah.
Being that there was a conflict of interest. Or I would have thought that our counsel, the lawyer, would have said, you may want to sit out on this one.
It's not even a bad question for the council member to ask during the meeting, should I? You know,
True story.
In full transparency, if she poses the question there
because
in the
I
meeting.
Would think that if I earned a seat on the school board, right? I think if I would have earned a seat on the school board this election, and there was something to happen or a vote to happen with Choose Elementary, I would think that I would be told, Dena, your children go to Choose. This affects this school directly. Yeah. You would have to abstain. And I'd be like, okay, no biggie fray.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was... And
for the record, I have asked, I did not know that Miss Stubbs, or Councilwoman Stubbs, being that they wrote this as councilwomen, I did not know that Councilwoman Stubbs was involved in the Brittany Woods project. I didn't know that she was one of the driving forces of it. I have asked about Mrs. Stubbs' lackluster attendance, because that is our tax dollars paying for her to fulfill a role that the voters have voted her in for, which I also think is a very fair question.
It was, and that was also something that I thought of when I saw their 2 pictures, and I thought, wow, that's I know your question to Miss Grace. I knew about that because people immediately reached out about that one, but I also thought, well, she did question Stubbs' attendance.
I'm the type of person that if I said something, I'll own it. I have sometimes vocalized unpopular opinions, just like selling marijuana here at Gloucester Township. I've said it. I owned it. I haven't backed down. That's what my own thought process is. If I don't agree with you, I'm not going to belittle you or think about it. I'm just going to nicely say, this is the reasons why. And we can agree to disagree. And I have, yes, since buying a house here in Gloucester Township, I feel that I should also go to council meetings. Now, granted, I have been a resident since 2014, but at the same time, I didn't really have skin in the game. Just like you don't go, you feel that you don't go to school board meetings because you don't have children, but you're more than welcome to go to school board meetings because you're a taxpayer. Yeah. You know, so for myself, I didn't think that I had enough skin in the game to go to council meetings because I didn't own a house, right? So since November of last year, I have been attending council meetings, not as regularly as school board meetings, but I can tell you I probably attended more than Miss Stubbs.
Yeah, and it says a lot, too, your involvement before, actually, when you were a renter, before you bought the house, your involvement was way more than most people. And it's, and even when we looked at voting statistics, renters just don't. I think there's a disconnect between the renters and being a part of the community, because they don't vote that much. When we looked at different apartment areas, there wasn't huge voter turnouts, and I think those people, they're very much a part of this community. So especially with, look, we're bringing in more apartments to this community. So
I wonder if they need a marketing director.
It's going to be. Yeah,
it would cut down on my commute. Just wanted to say that there.
That is a commute, man. That is a commute. So, yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I thought this was a terrible attack by 2 councilwomen.
I mean, here's the other thing. As a marketing person, I think this was just thrown together. I am quite excited for the free publicity and putting my name out there. So I do thank you. I thank you a lot because I don't think a lot of people know who Dena Hendry are, or is, I should say. Because all of my efforts have been on social media or on these awesome signs, and I only have 100 of them. So my reach now is great, but hopefully somebody can Google me or find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I have an open Facebook page, and ask me. I've had somebody ask me who I'm not Facebook friends with. She messaged me and she says, I was interested in voting for you, but I just received, this is how I found out. I just received this letter and it's concerning. And I was just like, what letter? Can you kindly send it to me? And I will admit, I was fuming. I was literally besides myself, because one, of the lie. If they said, this person, Dena Hendry, has asked me about my attendance, I'd be like, yeah, that's true. Or she asked me about a conflict of interest. Where does she get off on that? I'd be like, that's true too. But to say that I've questioned intentions, that's not true. And to say why low-income neighborhoods need a playground or a community center or sidewalks or affordable housing, I didn't even know about anything about sidewalks. Yeah. That's not true either. So I was just like, this is a bull-faced lie. And this is what makes good people not want to be the change.
Yes. And I think that's part of that's the intention too, is to not only
I can tell you
scare you off, but scare others off too.
This is nice paper too.
It is nice paper.
Good job. But also, those who have gotten it, they have said it's also creating an undertone that is dividing our community, and that shouldn't be it either. Well,
you're breaking into the machine here, so
I'm not.
You've gotten. Look, you've gotten. Congratulations, because you've gotten their attention, and they are.
If this is, as my dad said, when people gossip and people spread things, one or two things are happening. They're either jealous, which there's nothing to be jealous about me, trust me, or they're intimidated. And if you're intimidated and you think that I can possibly be the change of your community, great. But everything I'm doing is online and encouraging neighbors to have a conversation with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And just stating the facts. And that's the type of person that I am. I'm stating the facts. I am, and I'll say it again, I am not handpicked by our machine, as we call it, right? Our firm. I don't identify as a politician. I don't have a Facebook page separate from my Dena Scott Hendry Facebook page, because I'm not a politician. I am just Dena, who is a mom, a wife, and a working professional. And I am not involved in any of our interest groups.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, are you considered an interest group?
No, you know what? We aren't even. There's no structure.
So I'm not involved in any interest groups. I am not employed by our pay-to-play people. I am just somebody who has attended school board meetings, who is involved in our community, and who's not afraid to say, wait a second, this doesn't make sense, and ask why, and be the voice and the change. I've said it before. What our township lacks all the way around is involvement.
It really does.
It really stinks that at a school board meeting, you have sometimes anywhere between 2 and 4 parents there. it really stinks that at a council meeting, you have the core 10.
Yeah. It's the same folks, and then occasional.
But yet we all want
new
change,
person.
right? We all want change. And it shows you from this letter, they don't want change.
Yeah. And it seems like change is impossible here because they are so strong. But in reality, it's
not that they're strong, it's that they have the money.
They have the money, yeah. They have the money, and they're well organized. And it takes one day. It just takes one day for people to show up and say, no, we're done with this. We're going with these people. So November 8th is the day. And is there anything else that you wanted to do before we wrap up? Anything else you want to say?
I really thank you. Why do I feel like I'm about to cry? I thank everybody for the support that you have given now up until this day. And hopefully all the way up until November 8th, because I'm telling you, I can't do it without you. You're making me feel like the little engine that could. I said it before, I feel like a guppy in an ocean. And without your support and your vote and having conversations with your neighbors, I'm just going to keep treading water until you guys say yay or nay. So I really thank you.
Yeah. And before we go, I thank you too. You have
thank you so much for inviting. I mean, you and Keith did the podcast of all the candidates. You ran them down and you said, if anybody wants to be on, we'll be more than happy, to have you. And I reached out and I said, yeah, me, because one, it's free.
Yeah,
and two, it's a really great experience, and I thank you so much.
We had 3 responses in Keith was already here when I suggested it.
But he could have said no. He could have been like, no.
In 24 hours. Well, that's the thing. The opposition, they're not going to talk. So the people that wanted to step up and wanted to make a change, they talked. And I want to thank you for last year too, for bringing for shedding some light on the last year's candidates. Interviewing my team. It was supposed to be we tried to throw a debate. We tried to put a debate together.
And not even a debate. It was a meet the candidates.
Yeah.
Just like what you're doing here. Meet the candidates. I emailed the mayor. I emailed Joe D'Amico. I mean, I had a conversation with Joe D'Amico.
Yeah.
I had a conversation, and he was under the advisement that it might have not been a good idea. But guess what? A year later, Joe D'Amico and I are Facebook friends. We have the respect of that we want the change of this community. We may not vote the same way or have the same viewpoints on every single thing, but we have the respect for one another to say something needs to change, and let's have a conversation on how to be the change.
Yeah. So let's folks, if you want to support the change, November 8th is election day. If you have any signs left, all right. If you'd like a Dena Hendry sign for your front lawn, reach out to any particular way to reach out to you that's better than the other.
I mean, at this point, I'll even take smoke signals. You can Facebook me. Keith has a couple of signs that I know of. I have them on my front porch. If it's easier for you to pick up, I'll meet you at a neutral location. If you don't want me to know where you live, I'm open.
All right, sounds good. So thank you, folks, for checking this out. And remember, November 8th. So if you'd also share this video out too, so your friends can also find out who Dena is. Thanks, folks. See you soon.